Hey guys, it's Tash-i. So I finally watched the movie Cuties because there's been so much talk about it on the internet. I wanted to see for myself what it was all about. Was it the hard hitting piece that Netflix claims it was supposed to be? About coming of age, and is everyone being super 2020 about it, which is like just another word for hypersensitive, or was it as grotesque as everyone thinks it is, especially after that one clip came out that's been going viral. I really just wanted to take a minute to watch it myself. And with that being said, I decided to make a video because I know there's a lot of people wondering the same thing. So you're not required to care about my opinion, but if you wanted to sit with me for a few minutes and try to listen out to what I saw and my take on it, here it is. So, to make a long story short, the film centers around this 11-year-old girl. She's from an African home, Senegalese to be specific, and she just moves to Paris. And, she's trying to she's dealing with a lot of things at home, and she comes across this group of girls that she wants to make friends with. There's four girls. They have their little dance group. It's called the Cuties. And they're kind of bullying her, but she wants to be their friend really bad. So she decides to take, her adaptation of what it means to be a mature young lady. She decides to go ahead and take that into her own hands, and she wants to teach her friends all these dance moves so that they can win a competition that they're in. Just so that she can really kind of fit in. Basically, she's trying to figure out what it is to balance, being a woman in the world that she's been raised in and being a woman in this new world that she's been immersed into, which is the Western world. First off, I will say the film does address or does show some things that teens and preteens are actually dealing with today. Eating disorders, bullying, peer pressure, coming of age and coping with, things at home and adult problems. And yes, the hypersexualization of children. The writer of the film, she says that she basically wanted you to experience what adolescence is through a looking glass, and she kind of wants you to understand that younger and younger girls are being immersed into a culture that they don't understand, and they're conforming to these adult behaviors as a way of trying to grow up, and that it's being criticized when people are seeing it outside from through a person point of view, but for some reason it's also being condoned simultaneously in people's homes. Children are having internet access that's just really kind of going unchecked, and they're being exposed to this salacious dancing and music as well as adult dressing and language that's being seen, and people are letting basically the media raise their kids as opposed to raising them themselves. So had this been an article that I was reading, I completely would have agreed with it, but it wasn't. Let me be clear, this was not your after school special. The same point that the writer claims she's trying to make is completely negated based on the fact that she employs five young girls to do the same thing. She makes them act in the same way that she's criticizing. Every 10 minutes, almost like clockwork, and I will say it's almost like clockwork, you see yet another scene that, I won't even sugarcoat it to say it's inappropriate. It was downright explicit and disgusting. Let's make it clear. It was disgusting for a 16-year-old, even. It was disgusting for a Cardi B video. If you think I'm being dramatic, you can check it out yourself. My Netflix kind of goes based on how many minutes are left in the movie, so I'm going to go based on that. It's minus 55 minutes, minus 35 minutes, minus 25 minutes, and minus 13 minutes, which to me, that part's the worst, till the end of the video. You can see those scenes, and you can take your own, opinion on that. The writer says she wanted to kind of push that boundary so that people didn't dismiss it as no big deal. But there's pushing boundaries and then there's crossing them. And this film definitely crossed the boundaries. I feel like when you're making a social commentary like this, you have to have an ethical responsibility, and I feel like she failed on hers. If there was no inappropriate behavior and language and explicit imagery, then I could say, yeah, great, it was, whatever. But there is. So let's take a minute to snap back to reality. You have to understand, there is four girls that has spent hours, months even, being coached on how to look and act seductively. There's adults that are filming these girls and they're zooming in on them at angles that no one should ever look at an underage girl. Hell, no one should probably look at like overage women in the same way. My phone froze for a minute when I was watching the video, and I kind of like freaked out because I was like, if someone walks in, I'm probably gonna get arrested. So it makes you think, like, if you take it out of the context of what Netflix is saying that they're trying to accomplish and just put it in a general, you see this on someone's computer, it would probably be considered illegal. So then you have to think about it in that way. These girls, in my personal opinion, have been put in harm's way because there's probably some pedophiles that are watching this video and they're just rewinding the bad parts that I've kind of highlighted a couple minutes ago. And it makes you think, is it really the point that she's trying to make, or is this just exploitation wrapped in BS? Because to me, when you have like a young guy that's watched an adult video and, you know, every single time he sees a girl eating banana now, you know, he sees it as like this sexual thing. She's just eating a banana. So you have these guys now that watch this movie, and every time they probably watch a TikTok video, they're just imagining these, you know, hyper sexualized, which I get is the point she says she's trying to make, but still, there's 4 girls that you've now actually made do this. It could have made a great article or documentary just explaining how things can escalate for kids, from what they watch and what they see, to what they wear, and it escalates from what they wear to how they speak and act, and it escalates to what they do and how they present themselves to the world, as well as how the world treats them, you know, and it all kind of starts with us as adults, you know, what are we putting forth to, you know, for these kids to see, but it wasn't an article, you know, and it wasn't a documentary. The symbolism in this movie is way too heavy for kids to even understand. So even if they do watch this, they're probably just going to want to mimic the behaviors that they see instead of avoiding it. I'd also like to address the fact that the movie kind of highlights the downfalls of society, but also manages to promote a balance that is better between modern society or Western society's traditional value, as well as traditional values, you know, that it's better to balance these out as the right way to raise your kids. And I think this is like the writer's own bias because she comes from a background that's similar to the main characters. But I kind of just feel like, I think it's important for traditional values to be kind of imposed on kids, short of harming them, obviously, but it's important for adults to go ahead and enforce the things that they were taught, and to enforce that, you know, kids need to stay in a child's place. This way they're not actually thinking that when they see an adult doing something in a video, in a music video, they don't think that it's for them to imitate. They can reject or accept these things whenever they want, whenever they're old enough. But for now, I think it's important for those things to be enforced on them. I grew up in a strict household myself, and my mother was very clear. She didn't care what other kids were doing. She didn't care what I saw on the internet. She was raising me the way that I was supposed to be raised, and that I was going to do what she said. And I didn't always like it. I hated it sometimes, but I learned that, you know, I learned the reason why. You know, you learn the reason why they're teaching you these things. As you get older, you can understand it. And, you know, I'm better for it. For anyone who saw the writer's video on why she made the film and disagrees with me, I can't tell you how to feel, but if you have thought about the movie and you've said you don't feel comfortable watching it, or if you say, you know, I'd never let my kids audition for it, but I get the point, or you never let your niece or nephew, then you see my point. You know, you understand that it crossed a boundary. That's the thing. You cannot go ahead and just say, based on the intention of the film, that it's an okay film. It crossed a boundary. There's going to be a time when these kids apply for college, and when they do apply for college, you know, in the next 5 or 6 years, colleges are going to be able to see the first thing that they find on these girls is a video of them twerking in underwear. You know, and how long until this becomes the norm for making really hard-hitting social commentary movies. You know, how long until every single video that you want to make about teenage girls is featuring girls just doing horrible things? I don't think it should be condoned. I used to watch Lifetime movies, and they used to kind of push the same message, and you know what? They pushed the same message, and it was a lot clearer without all the explicitness. So, long story short, I guess it wasn't that short, but I'm going to say no on this video. I'm going to say that to me it was just kind of, it was exploitation wrapped in bullshit. I'll be completely honest. And that's my Tash Talk for the day. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, you're not required to care about my opinion, and I do encourage, if you guys have any additional opinions on the video, please be sure to comment them below. But in case you were wondering, that's just kind of how I felt.